here, and we all feel like we have the same starting point. So here's the deal, High Tech High. You guys have been part of this learning experience for about 4 years, and you've probably caught on to some themes, and the way that what we're trying to do is to have learning experiences here that reflect what's going on in the real world outside of this place, and also like give you opportunities to plan your learning, give you opportunities to develop interests, passions, connections. And so the way that this ends, the final learning experience that you're going to have here as part of High Tech High, what we created about 10 years ago is something called Endersession. And Endersession is interesting because there's a lot of different possibilities of what that could look like for you. And today we're going to try to describe all of those so that you have this opportunity to kind of have a sense for what you want to plan towards. And for all of you, that's going to look like something very different. And so today that's what we're doing, is we're planting a seed. You don't need to have some sort of notepad out and be writing things down. We're here as resources to be able to kind of catch up on those types of things. We want to be able to give you time that's embedded within your learning experience to kind of plan towards this, but we just want to kind of cover some details. So, what we're going to do is, can you hear me in the back? Frida, you can hear me? Okay, thank you. If you can't, do something like that. One of the first details is this. Kind of crazy to think. May 10th is your last academic day here at High Tech High. And so what happens on that day, that's the last kind of academic day, grades are going to be shut down, we're going to start generating comments. And then the next week, you're meant to start in on what becomes your Endersession experience. And you're meant to maintain about a 30-hour per week investment in some type of experience. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about all this. And then what I'm going to have you do is talk to the people that are close to you, your shoulder mates and things like that, with some kind of questions of like, well, John said everything, but he didn't say the couple things that I still got some questions on. And then we're going to answer some questions, and then we're going to go back. Let's do this, Marcelo. So here we are. What is Endersession? It's 5 weeks of independent study for seniors to explore life beyond high school. So when we say these 5 weeks and when we say the word independent, what that means is much like internships, you wouldn't be coming to school. It's not something that you come here for so that you leave to go participate in. This is something that you go from your home to this experience, from that experience back to your home, and you're managing that investment in that time throughout the week kind of remotely. And I know for a lot of you, this is kind of a foreign concept because you're a unique group. Many of you were not able to participate in an internship. And for that reason, I think a lot of the teachers really would want to encourage you because of what it looks like on a resume and because of how significant that experience is. As you head into this experience, there's all these opportunities and all these potential directions to go. I would say at the beginning of this conversation, I would encourage you to consider going and finding an internship. Because of the structure, because of the experience, because of the exposure, because of the networking that happens within that experience, I would encourage you to think about that from the get-go, but let's talk about the other possibilities. So here we got 5 weeks of independent study or some type of experience that you are gonna craft. Here's the goals for these Endersessions. We want you to acquire skill sets. Experience a workplace environment. That sounds pretty internship-y. Your own personal growth. Here we go. I think this is the one that has a lot of value to it and kind of it's going to allow you to kind of put your North Star on the map here. This idea of what this might mean to you or what resonates for you here. An Endersession can consist of volunteering, taking part in an internship, a service project, a college course external to High Tech High, High Tech High credit recovery. So when we say High Tech High credit recovery, this wouldn't be something like, oh, you know what, I always wanted to take John's biology class because there's so much wood shop going on in there, and so you know I'm going to do that during Endersession. I'll actually be working, kind of managing other, other parts of the learning. So this is more if you, as you approach graduation are credit deficient and are missing credits, you can use this time to make those back up such that you graduate on time with all the credits that you need. Hey Maddie, I see your question back there, and if it's cool, keep it up here in your mind, and then we'll hit them all once this is all said and done. Now there's a little bit of an asterisk down here, and Marcus might be able to speak to this more than I can, but here's what we got right now. If you are 18 years or older and you have a job, you can apportion 10 hours of your 30 hours per week towards working. If you are younger than 18, there's liability and legality reasons that you actually cannot use your Endersession time to work and make money. And so that's kind of something, if you're considering that. Here's something else that I want to let you know. There's all these options up here. It doesn't mean that you have to pick one and say like, I'm gonna do volunteering and I will be a volunteer. It means that you can cobble together this experience. If you're able to put together 12 hours of volunteering a week, that's great. Okay, now what are we gonna do with the other, what is that, 18? Yes, 18 hours. Maybe you'll use the other 18 to take a course that you're really excited about for college, to kind of onboard you to the major that you wanna major in next year or something like that. You're trying to piece together 30 hours of learning. And this experience should be born from something that you're passionate about. And also this experience should be something that you build. You guys are ready to build this kind of experience. A lot of that support has been coming from teachers all these years. You guys are ready to plan something like this. And that's what this is about, right? It's us handing this over to you as you leave this place and head to college, right? Let me click a couple more. Here's the requirements. As I mentioned, it's about 30 hours per week. This mentor thing, you have to understand what it's like for us to be here at school and be like, well, they're out there. We want there to be a point of contact, somebody that we can call, somebody that we can email, somebody that we can get a hold of, just to kind of check in on things. Also to coordinate our visits. That's what your senior teachers are gonna be doing during this time, is we're gonna be communicating with you, connecting with you, helping to support this process, but also coming to visit you and getting to see the brilliant things that you're doing out in our community. And so we need to make sure that you have a mentor. Weekly Google Classroom updates. Here's what I want to let you know. Surface value, that seems like a bunch of homework assignments. I want to let you know this. It is a very low lift. These are going to be like one prompt per week. Why is it a low lift? Because we want you to be able to immerse yourself in an Endersession experience. If you're kind of feeling this tension between like doing high-tech, high homework and trying to be part of an immersive experience, it's going to create a tension, and you're going to feel pulled in two different directions. We want you to immerse yourself deeply in the experience, and so it's something that's super low lift. It'll probably take you maybe an hour a week just to be able to, here's some photos from my experience. Here's kind of my reflections on what happened this week. Here's me sharing my learning. Here's me sharing my growth. Here's me sharing these perspectives that I've developed. And so that's something that you're going to manage through Google Classroom. And then in the end, we have that there's an Endersession TPOL. The reality is this. It's going to be part of your entire POL. Seniors sit down at the end of this year, and you're going to have this great opportunity to reflect not just on a semester-long experience, but 4 years worth of growth, learning, connections, developing passions, interests, perspectives. And so your POL is going to be about that, including your Endersession experience as well. And so just keep that in mind as you head into this, that we're going to ask you, of course, that's very high-tech high, right? Just to speak to that experience. And so that'll be a component of your TPOL. So these are the requirements. This is how we envision our progression. February 16th, right on track. Here we are talking about Endersession. 22nd through 25th, student-led conferences. We'll probably bring it up. March 3rd, you need to be, by the way, reaching out. Starting to think about, what might this look like for me? All right, who do I need to contact? Who's out there? Who am I gonna call? How am I gonna network? How am I gonna make this happen? Progress, updates, sharing out. And then as we start to head towards, as you all know, the day before Shakespeare's birthday, April 22nd. I know you did. You were all thinking it. We want to make sure we're confirming things. And then, like I said, May 10th, May 10th, this all starts.
Yep, I have that too.
And then we do this all the way through till right before you guys graduate. What you'll essentially do is come back on that Friday, and then that next week is really going to be allocated to your TPOLs, and then also some graduation practice with the great Marcus Bell.
I love you, Marcus.
We all love you, Marcus. I've already kind of mentioned how we're going to keep up with this. This is what your workload's going to look like. And what I would want to convey as somebody who's been part of this program for a few years now is that, again, we are going to be super intentional about having this be light lift. We want it to be light lift, but high impact. Really just taking pictures and keeping track of what you're doing. I'm not a huge fan of discussing, what it looks like if all this falls apart. But what I've found is that this is often kind of on the mind of like, well, what we want to know is how can I be successful? And I'd rather talk about it from that point, if you guys don't mind. Of course, we can infer that what it looks like to fail. What it looks like to fail is not to keep up with the Google Classroom and not to submit things, not to communicate, not to be available, not to participate, not to be able to, get in contact with you. That's not gonna work for us, right? And so let's not plan for that. And so what it looks like to be successful is to be constantly maintaining open communication with your mentors so that you know every single one of you is gonna have somebody at Endersession who's your contact point and somebody here who's your contact point. You will no longer have like a team of teachers. Of course, we're all here for you at all times, but you'll have one contact person. So I will have like 20 senior students that are gonna be my students that I go out and I visit. And Amanda will have that, and Ryan will have that. We're all gonna have our students that we go to. You just need to be maintaining communication with them, and then you also need to be consistent with submitting that work. Pretty easy, Parcheesi. I think we get all this stuff. I found that showing work that's happened previous to this experience is helpful, just because it kind of gives us a sense of what it might look like. Because a lot of us just think like, okay, I think I know what I'm gonna do, but we haven't really imagined what others have done. So let's go ahead and take a look. In the past, we've had students work on an organic farm. Oh yeah, just so you know. The Endersession doesn't need to take place in San Diego. These can take place remotely, and they have taken place remotely. Funding for these types of experiences need to happen. Those are kind of on your end, but if you can find a place to stay that's safe, if you can, pay for this type of experience, then you are more than welcome to communicate remotely and have this immersive experience happen outside of San Diego. We've had students working as teaching assistants at a middle school in England. We've had students teach photography in New Orleans. I feel like they're just showing you guys the ones that did not happen in San Diego. We're not trying to get rid of you guys. We love you. I want you guys here. Now we want you to go to Chile. Ooh.
What?
I didn't know what to say to it. I think that harkens from a time where students were working a little bit more, but as it is now, it's fairly constrained, and it's not something necessarily that I want to encourage. I think that it should look a lot more like an internship, but if it so happens that you can turn this into something where we learned a lot from work experiences, and if that ends up being part of it, we want to encourage that if it works and is legal. Oh, lions, tigers, and bears.
Oh my.
Outside the lens, they are right here within this, the Liberty Station community. Starbucks. San Diego Art Institute.
Wait, can we go back?
Yeah, I'll go back.
Back to the FBI.
Oh, okay.
So intern with the U.S. representative. Both reps, Peters and Davis, have taken interns. Okay. What we've gleaned from that, there's all sorts of different possibilities for you guys. And I'm gonna go back to the one slide that just kind of shows the different things that we have envisioned or that you are allowed to do or encouraged to do for internship. And what I want you to do while I'm going back to that slide, turn to your shoulder mates or somebody who's around you and talk to them about one of two things. You might not have a question right now. Maybe talk to them about an idea you have right now for what your Endersession might look like. Okay? You guys do that.